Hi, Pascal.
Hello. For me, the future of materials is just about looking beyond just today. Particularly with my fabrics, I looked at the history of ostrich feathers and the entire feather trade that happened between South Africa and Europe and all over the rest of the world. So for me, it was actually like looking at the past and how we can actually not necessarily return to it, but how we can learn from those, not necessarily mistakes, but just learn from that history and how we can maybe improve it in a modern day society where, particularly if you're dealing with animal products, where there's this negativity towards materials and using animal products. For me also, it's about looking at the future of production and bringing it back to South Africa. Like for me, that's really a big part of my project, is I want it to become this proudly South African product, even though I'm not based in South Africa anymore. I'm really trying to get the production back there so we can actually make a product that's, not only grown on the ostriches there, but it's also manufactured into a product that can then be used to make other products. We have a lot of stuff in the world, so I don't want to make more stuff that's not necessarily needed, but I do want to bring value to things that are already existing. People always assume that, particularly with ostrich feathers, because they are a luxury product, they are treated badly, but actually I think out of all the products, it's definitely not causing any harm to the bird, and they fall out naturally. So for me, it's just important to make it very clear that there is no harm to the bird, and the feathers do grow back, and we don't pull them out. They always cut, like you going and having a haircut. It's actually dead material, so there's no blood cells in the feather. It's in the skin where it comes, where it hurts. So that's why they don't pull it, and they don't take so many that the bird is naked, because that's also bad, especially in the area that they live. It gets very cold at night, particularly in winter. It can snow in the area. So the people that work there and have been working with these animals all these years are so good at what they do. They know exactly what this animal needs, and hopefully I can have my own flock in the near future, I hope, where we can really sort of experiment with farming them for longer periods of time, with only the feathers as the main end product. Of course, there's feathers that are involved when they actually slaughter the animal, but I can't use them. They're too small usually, because they come from the body, and they're usually the smaller feathers that you find usually in feather dusters and stuff. I use the bigger feathers that come from the wings of the ostrich, actually. So they're much more practical in terms of my uses, because I need the biggest feathers for the longest pieces that I can use. This is a question I get a lot, actually, how did you end up with ostriches and feathers? And for me, it was just a combination of everything that I love. It was my graduation project that I did at the Design Academy in Eindhoven. And I was looking for some way that I could involve my love for birds and my love for collecting things, which is often feathers and whatever else I can find on the ground, bones or porcupine quills or whatever. Like in South Africa, if you're walking in the nature, you often find those things. But I've always been obsessive sort of collector and admirer of nature, so that was a perfect fix for me, because it also combined my love also for history and South Africa, because I think the whole project started with me wanting to bring animals into the home, because I'm living in Europe, and it's very rare that people have pets in their homes, because often you're not allowed to have an animal in your home if you're renting. So I was like, how can we create some sort of sensation of a creature inside the home? And then I sort of looked at making furniture, and then I was kind of, based on the shape, I was very interested in ostrich, and then I started researching ostrich, and it just evolved over time, and eventually I got into ostriches, and then I found out that the farming of ostriches has been going on so long in South Africa, and there's this entire history that I didn't even know about. I mean, I didn't even know about oatsturen until I started this project, and then it just kind of snowballed, and it just became more and more. And then I was like, okay, well, I don't want to make furniture, I want to make some sort of material out of these feathers. I want to give them new life. I don't want it to be just this you know, another feather lamp or another whatever. I wanted to become a material that I can then use to make other items. So the big thing was for me to actually break this iconic image of this ostrich feather, because it's so, throughout history, if you look at old paintings, even, you know, from the 19th, 16th century, like, it's crazy. Like, for all those years, they've been using it in hats and, you know, even for pens and for burlesque, you know, it's throughout history so iconic. So I just found that the best way to sort of break this image was literally to just break up the feather into multiple pieces and sort of reconstruct it in various ways. So it was many like weeks just experimenting with, you know, ways to break it up and put it back together again. And even, it didn't even necessarily translate to weaving in the beginning. Like, there was a lot of casting, there was, you know, felting, there was knitting, you know, I tried a lot of things, but for me, I just found that the best medium that fitted was weaving. So I actually learned how to weave for this project, and it just kind of, now it's become my everyday job. Now I'm weaving like all the time, and actually having to now train other people because I want to get the production back in South Africa. So that's something I'm starting now, and it's exciting because you know, a couple of years ago I didn't even know what I was doing, and now I'm having to represent this medium that I once didn't know anything about. In terms of my journey, I'm just trying to show the uses of my material that are not only limited to, you know, because feathers have always been seen in fashion. I think that's number one in terms of, you know, as a decorative thing. And of course, it's still got a decorative element, but I'm trying to show that it can be more integrated into the garments. So you're rather buying it like as a fabric instead of like this, the sequence, I'm making the fabric that's underneath the sequence, you know? So it's not feathers being attached onto another fabric. I'm making the fabrics made out of feathers. And that's why the production in South Africa is important to me, because I really want the people to be able to order pieces of fabric that they could, you know, put onto their garments or put onto interior projects. So I'm thinking curtains, and like I did a project last Dutch Design Week where I made a room divider out of the fabric, and that was quite successful because of its transparency and opacity in certain areas. People are surprised often at how little material I use. Like, one feather can last me quite a long, like quite a big piece. It goes a long way. It really depends also on the type of sample, because I've got so many different varieties of techniques and colors and stuff, but that's why I kind of stuck to the grayscale mostly. I've been playing a bit with color recently as well, which is something I didn't mention, but I have tried it and I really liked it. But I think people are more enthralled by the grayscale because you don't see it as much, especially here in Europe, because often the good quality feathers end up dyed and brought over here already dyed, so they don't see the black and the white and the gray. In terms of my process, it hasn't changed much. It's just about getting my work out there right now. It's been tough, you know, not being able to be in shows and show the physical material, because I feel like that's where it shines the best. Because online is all fine and well, but the best is to actually physically be there, seeing it, feeling it, watching it move with the you know, your own body is making it move as you pass it, you know. So there's this very beautiful ethereal feeling you have when you're physically with it, but you can't experience that online. So that's the one thing that I feel has affected me. But I was thrown into this into my business out of necessity with visas and things. So it really gave me this moment to sort of sit back, slow down, reassess, decide what I want to do, because I never sort of sat down and like made a physical business plan, you know, something so simple like that. I just kind of was thrown into it and then was immediately into the first show, and then it just kind of went to the next one and the next one. And for the last 2 years, that's what I've been doing. And now that I'm not able to go to those shows and sort of be distracted by the prep of that, I'm sort of sitting back and really deciding what I want to do. And that's involving not just my feathered fabrics, but for example, maybe re-exploring a previous project I did called Time Flies, where I worked with taxidermists to sort of reassess this old craft that's got this sort of bad rep, and try and look at how we can make it modern and make it cool and make it not so stuffed. So I'm excited about that, but there's way more. I want to explore other materials as well and things like that.